Noman, you're muted.
This one will never end. Thank you. Again, welcome to Supply Chain Talks. Welcome to the session on prices in Suez, the income global logistics. I am joined here by an professions from different countries. So joining me is Mr. Anwaar Nizami, who is the Director for Contract Logistics with Worldwide Logistics. And we have Rayan Albakri, who is the Deputy CEO of LogiPoint Saudi Arabia. Then Lutfi, who is the Group GM, General Manager for Integrated Supply Chain for English Biscuit Manufacturers, Pakistan. And last but not the least, definitely Bassel EI-Khoury, Head of Supply Chain Management for Siemens Middle East. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Noman. Welcome.
Thank you. So to start off, I would appreciate that I did a brief introduction. If you guys can also briefly introduce about yourself, a little bit about you and your background in supply chain. Anwar, with you, we'll start off with you.
Thank you, Ji. Hello, everyone. Myself is Anwaar Nizami, and I'm currently working as Director of Contract Logistics in Hellmann Worldwide Logistics, which is a German multinational 3PL organization. It's been over 15 years in the 3PL industry overall in Pakistan, working in different positions and, of course, handling different situations with regard to logistics and supply chain. I've done my master's from Taj University of Karachi many years ago, and also have done some certification in supply chain and different training courses in supply chain overall. I'm also part of Supply Chain Institution of Pakistan as VP, and we have been running this organization in Pakistan together with Noman and Noman Lutfi and Noman Ali, and trying to create awareness about supply chain in Pakistan in different sectors. I'm a father of 3 beautiful kids, 2 sons and 1 daughter. So that's it from my side, Noman.
Thank you. Thank you, Anwar. Definitely, we have been on the journey of SCAP, Supply Chain Association of Pakistan, for a long time.
Yeah.
It's been now 2+ years, mashallah. Rayan, over to you. If you may please introduce yourself.
It would be a pleasure. Rayan Albakri, currently I'm holding the position of Deputy CEO at LogiPoint in Saudi Arabia. One of the projects we have now is the first bonded re-export zone in Saudi that was established maybe around 19, 20 years ago. I hold 19 years of experience in the industry, moving from all in the service providing field. So I'm always providing a service to all companies in their supply chains, from transport, shipping, warehousing, terminal operation, up to national strategy making. I worked with MSC, with Maersk Line, with Gulf Trainer, Saudi Airlines, Globe Group. I have been across many businesses to understand their needs, and that helped me a lot in excelling in the experience I have created. I am a father of 3 beautiful angels, 2 girls and 1 boy. My first name is Lulwa, the last is Bassel, and the middle one is Alia. I enjoy these talks. I enjoy intellectual, interactions with the much alike people in the industry. So I'm excited about today and our talk.
Thank you, Rayan. Thank you. Bassel, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Noman, and thank you for inviting for this session. I hope it will be a constructive one. I'm My name is Bassel EI-Khoury. I'm working for Siemens, based in Saudi Arabia. I'm handling the Middle East region for supply chain management for Siemens. I have been in Siemens for the last 20 years plus. However, before I was always also in the supply chain area, but more on the logistics side, working in an airline in the early days, and then moved on to Siemens in the year 2000. My background is business administration initially, and later on a Master of Science in supply chain management. For us as Siemens, we are mainly a B2B consumers. We are more on the EPC side as a engineering, electrical engineering, manufacturing, and also execution of energy projects. We are in the field of transportation systems as rail and trains. We are as well in the digital or the industrial sector as digital industries. We are as well in the smart infrastructure for smart cities, and also there is a major part of Siemens, although I do not work for it, but it's the Healthineers with the healthcare sector. We mainly, I am as a supply chain management, we work on a core component in our company, which is the procurement and sourcing. However, the logistics consist a major part, especially when it comes to deliveries and also the related to import, export, and what is in between, including the warehousing and distribution. I am a father of a daughter and a son. They are all grown up, not kids any longer. So yeah, and I really look forward for a nice and constructive session, as I said. Thank you, Noman.
Welcome, most welcome. Now over to you, Noman Lutfi.
Yeah, hi everybody, and assalamu alaikum. As you mentioned, my name is Noman Amjad Lutfi. I'm basically a supply chain professional, and I'm right now working in English Biscuits as a group general manager for integrated supply chain for the last 3 years. Whereas before EBM, I was the part of Unilever Pakistan, Unilever Sri Lanka, and I served in Pakistan. My last assignment was manufacturing director Unilever Pakistan, and last assignment in Sri Lanka was supply chain director Sri Lanka, and then I joined EBM. Other than this, I have the part of the Unilever Pakistan Foods Limited for 4 years as a board director, and also the last 9 years I'm the MC members in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and English Biscuit. I'm also a part of the board of directors in GS1 Pakistan, and also SCAP, the 2 members of Noman and Anwar is part of it. So I'm also the part of SCAP and working with them. I'm also a member of SCMILT, Chartered Member of the Institute of Logistics and Transportation, and I'm also the regional member of ISCA, International Supply Chain and Education Alliance. So having said that, I have the privilege to work in almost all functions, sub-functions within the supply chain. So it's a good journey over last, I must say, 27 years. I'm basically a Master's in Food Science and Technology and BSc Honors in Applied Chemistry. And I have 4 kids. My eldest son name is Rayan. So Rayan Albakri, not Rayan Albakri, definitely Rayan. And mine is Noman, so Noman is sitting. So a lot of similarities here. And I have 2 sons, 2 daughters, basically 4 kids. And they all are right now getting education. So that's the shortest introduction of myself. So over to Noman Ali.
Thank you. I think the biggest similarity between all of us is the passion that we have towards supply chain. In general, we all are passionate about it. So, thank you for the introductions. coming to the main topic, the incident which happened last Tuesday in the Suez Canal. Alhamdulillah, it's a big thing that yesterday it got cleared up and Ever Given was refloated. Somebody was saying that, Noman, maybe you are a day late. You could have done it a little earlier this session, or maybe the ship should have been stuck still, given more substitution. But it's a good thing
because solved the problem yesterday.
Yes, but the thing is that it revolves around what happened. Incidents happen all the time. 2020 for us has been an year of the biggest incident in the recent history. Fine, I think after the Spanish flu or in the world wars, I think COVID-19 was the biggest pandemic or the biggest event that happened in all our lives. Now this issue happened, and now it has a certain repercussions, which are more on an immediate basis and also on a long-term basis. Having said that, I would like to share a few details about few topics. So I will share a few the screen. So the topic was that a few days back, 3 days back, I put up this question on LinkedIn as a poll that, in the opinion of people from the logistics side, when will the Suez Canal open up? And interestingly, we received responses from 315 people. So I think the sample size is pretty good. And this was the general response of the people, that only 35% of the people had the confidence or the hope that it would open in 1 week's time. And they were, they hit the bullseye on this. But 65%, did not have the right hope, or at least they did not have the trust in the authorities who were working the staff boards, the authority, and all the different organizations to handle the issue. But alhamdulillah, as of 29th of March, the Suez was, the Ever Given was refloated, and the Suez Canal was opened up. Moving forward, I would like to share a few background and details about the Suez Canal. Suez Canal is not a natural canal. It was constructed and it linked the Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf together. That was back in, the work started on the canal back in 1859. It took 10 years for it to get inaugurated. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was on 11th of October and 11th of November on 1869 that the Suez Canal was officially opened up. And this was not the first time that the canal got closed down due to a certain political, I would say, heat in the region between a few countries. From 1967 to 1965, the canal was closed down for all operations. Then in 2015, under the current government of Egypt, the Suez Canal expansion was done, and a new channel was also opened, and a few more tunnels, and the ports were updated. So in 2015, the expansion took place. In 2017, a ship, OOCL Japan, it ran aground. According to the media reports and the reports which I was able to gather, there are two conflicting things, that either it was refloated within a few hours and or at least 2 days. So there are a mix of details about it. So this Ever Given was definitely not the first ship over there to run aground. Now, last week on 23rd March, Ever Given runs aground and it blocks the Suez Canal. And definitely we all know, and the world had been following this, that on 29th of March, yesterday, I think it was 4:30 a.m. Egypt time, when the Ever Given was refloated into the Suez Canal. So this was the timelines of different events. A few facts and figures about the Suez Canal in general, that it is 120 mile long. It links, as I said, the Persian Gulf and the Mediterranean Sea. In 2020, the volume that the Suez Canal catered to was 19,000 ships that passed through, and that basically totaled to approximately 1 billion tons of cargo. Coming to Ever Given. Ever Given is amongst the largest cargo vessels in the world. It's not the biggest. There are some bigger ones as well. The dimensions of Ever Given, it was built in 2018. So on its third year of voyage, it got stuck. It is 400 meters, almost half a kilometer long by 59 meters wide. And it has a capacity of carrying 20,000 containers, or I think it was carrying 20,000 containers while it got stuck in the Suez Canal. The blockage that happened, as an estimate, $9.6 billion worth of cargo has been impacted because of it, which was on hold in the Suez Canal. The ship queue, till yesterday, it had reached up to 425 vessels at both ends of the canal, coming from the Persian Gulf into the Suez Canal. Now, based on the data from 2020, the 19,000 ships, the daily throughput was approximately 52 ships. But the capacity, what is defined, it has a capacity or throughput of around 70 ships as well. So looking at this, what it can be seen that the 425 ships which are in queue right now over there, the backlog is approximately 9 days. So basically, I just wanted to give a little background and a few facts about the whole scenario, so that as we move into now this session, the audience can appreciate that why is this such an important topic. This simple event, someone said to me that yes, events happen and some things are inevitable, but then again, that is now how we work in supply chain. Our responsibility is to, if something has happened, to work to understand why it worked, and then it should not be repeated again, or to have some measures or have a learning out of it. So coming to the key points of our discussion today, I would put my first question to Anwaar over here. And actually, this is a question for everyone over here, that from a general perspective, from your industry, like Anwaar, you are from the freight forwarding industry. Fine, you represent, you are working with Hellmann. But I'm talking about Hellmann, but in general, from your perspective, what was the impact from an industry perspective?
Thank you, Noman. I think, I do not see it as the only challenge to the global supply chain. But I think it is another challenge added in the already challenging business situation globally. We all know that the supply chain has suffered a lot during this COVID lockdown, and we all, were part of it. If you talk about the ocean freight only, so we all know that the ocean freight industry itself were already facing challenges such as heavy capacity constraints, equipment shortages, port congestion, combined with the poor schedule reliability. And of course, one of the most important things is skyrocketing market rates. And the list is long, of course. Being the 3PL company and being a traditional third party, traditional freight forwarding company, we have been facing these challenges for past almost I think 5 months now. So I think in Pakistan, if you talk about from Pakistan's perspective, I think it is the first time that exporters in Pakistan even cannot send their shipment out of Pakistan to meet their export order. And it is only because of the, number one, the higher freight rate, and secondly, the equipment shortages, I think. Like globally, all the carriers who have been operating like ocean carriers, have limitized or downsize their capacity due to some, of course, volume challenges and all that stuff. So if you talk about, so of course, being a 3PL global organization, we are constantly monitoring the current situation and closely following the efforts of the impacted vessel to further update the accessibility to both south and northbound services, by the way. So the first and the foremost responsibility of us being the service provider, we of course keeping our customers updated on this progress with regard to the Suez Canal Authority efforts to normalize the situation. So of course, and the second thing, of course, we are still trying to assess the cargo of our customers, which are somehow directly or indirectly impacted with this kind of situation, by the way. And of course, we continuously receiving specific information regarding details, schedule changes, and alternative options provided by the carriers, because everybody is trying to get their shipment. Of course, after next couple of days' time, definitely everybody start coordinating with the carriers to expedite the shipment and to chase the of course their cargo, which will pass through this canal in next few days. So and of course, being the service provider, we have to keep our customer updated with regard to the other development, other alternative, which may be we can offer. For example, if any cargo is still with the supplier right now, so we suggested them to move it, airfreight them if it is time critical shipment, for example. And if it is not, then we have been trying to provide them alternative kind of services so that their supply chain could not hampered somehow with this kind of situation.
Okay. Thank you. Definitely, I very well imagine that the last 1 week would have been, chaotic and challenging for you guys. Definitely. Thank you for your perspective on this, Anwar. Again, I would request if anyone, the other participant, can also provide their perspective on this. Rayan or Bassel, if you would like to.
Sure. For us, and for me, as someone who is observing what's happening today in the industry, and especially what happened in Suez Canal, I kind of have a different feel of what's happening now in the COVID-19 time. The resilience of supply chain for most of the companies and shipping lines and logistics supply service providers has become hopefully very strong, which means that they are resilient to any surprises and they have to manage their inventory well to be able to overcome any surprise in the coming future. COVID wasn't easy for most of the businesses. Some businesses went bankrupt. Some businesses went on a very stretched situation where they had to increase capacity, increase production to fulfill, especially like the FMCGs and the health sector. The fast-moving consumer goods were under pressure. Project cargo went a bit slow. And you find a different elements, dynamics in the reaction of the industry players when it comes to crisis management. Now, when it comes to Suez itself, what worries me is not what's happening today, because it's something happens and it has to be solved. And it was solved, alhamdulillah, early in the morning. What worries me now is the flow that will be happening in ports, in berths, in terminals, in warehouses, from supplier perspective and from a receiver perspective. So the suppliers were keen on production. Their inventory went high for their materials to be sent out. So they have issues in their space, capacity, in their locations. The ports itself, are they ready to accommodate all those vessels in anchorage? The windows that those vessels lost, will they be recovered quickly? Some ports had initiatives, like, for example, in Saudi Arabia, yesterday, Monday, the governor of Mawani, the president of Mawani, the Seaport Authority, he announced an initiative that Saudi will offer 60 days free for shipping lines to have a transshipment operation smooth, and that they are capable of accommodating all the containers and the cargo that is now being affected in Suez Canal. But that's, for example, Jeddah port in Saudi Arabia. What about the other ports, the capacities over there? How are they going to be managed? So we will face maybe in the next couple of weeks some congestions at port from anchorage up to berth capacities, up to transportation issue to clear out those cargo going to final customers. That might affect the prices locally on transportation, warehousing, inventory management, unless the companies have already enough inventory that will not be subject to be like blackmail or having a tough negotiation in terms of pricing and managing these things. As Suez Canal itself and the vessel itself, these things happens, and as you mentioned, Noman, clearly, it happened only 5 times since the inception of the canal, which is long time and with very minimum rate of errors, and that's good. So what happens today? It's just awakening to again strengthen the resilience of the supply chain for most of the players in it, and for those companies, factories who have long process like or very strong chain that they have to manage, like the retail and the food and consumer goods. So that's my perspective on what's happening, and as a humble opinion, as observation.
Fine. Thank you, Rayan. I will now move over to Bassel for the next question, basically linking to what you have defined as the immediate or the short-term impacts which will come from it. And Bassel, you are, at the end of the day, you come from a technology industry, from engineering industry, and for you, logistics, you are also receiving, you have to deliver to your customers, and also your factories are also dispatching equipment. So from that perspective, again, from a consumer, from a receiver perspective, I would like to have your thoughts on it, that the short-term impacts, like Rayan mentioned, that the receiving part would be now congested. Now suddenly a lot of shipments would be arriving at the ports, and that would put a lot of pressure not only on the ports but also on the companies who are importing those.
Yeah, indeed. Actually, I second what Rayan said, because he highlighted very much the situation from a global supply chain perspective, as well as from a local here in the region. And we as consumers of your services or of the logistics services, we also fall or we are trapped also in the same circle. Actually, this incident which took place in the Suez Canal is just only one circle in the whole chain, and the pandemic actually hit the wall and destroyed it from the first hit. What we were used to consider as resilience in the last maybe 20-30 years. This pandemic, since its start, actually we as on the consumer side, we felt how shaking it can be when we have projects and mega projects for execution and for delivery. And we got impacted. Now, every organization reacted in its own way and setup, and how organizational level it has in terms of supply chain. There had been an immediate short impact, of course. We had to adapt to it. Currently, when we got the issue of Suez Canal, it was another topic that was added to the overall challenges that we have since more than 1 year already. But it came in a in a phase where we had gained again the resilience, and we are more ready and more prepared to deal with it. The short-term impact is very well known. Rayan already also highlighted it. There will be a kind of backlog there. We will deal with that, but don't forget. You remember the famous Christmas and New Year season, where also China and the movement of goods got blocked the whole chain in especially in air freight, and we were also really subject to even heavier impact, which delayed our deliveries for more than 45 to 60 days. So it's not something new, in my opinion, but we are dealing with it. We are now even more having this risk control and risk management more advanced in our organizations, to try to always simulate scenarios and how we can really come out of it with the fastest and most efficient way that is possible.
Okay. Thank you, Bassel. Thank you. I think, yes, the short-term impact or the immediate impact, we all are facing it as of now. And you are right, Bassel, when you say that this is just another topic. As a supply chain professional, we'll be handling these issues non-stop. May it be the COVID, may it be the impact because of the Chinese New Year, the container shortages which has happened, they are still there. I was reading up on another topic recently about the semiconductor shortage happening, which would be very soon impacting the supplies for mobile phones and the car industry, to name a few of the industries which will be happening. So you are right. So on short term, now moving to Noman, Lutfi, now whenever we are faced with a challenge and whenever such things happen, the immediate impact is known. Now we understand it is visible and everything, but then obviously the long-term impact, that is not visible. That is something that will come with time. And as supply chain professionals, our role is to identify those long-term impacts, so that the supply chain resilience that we work towards to counteract any kind of disturbance or any kind of hurdles in the overall global supply chain. So, Noman, from your opinion, how do you see the long-term impacts of this event? And in this, I would like everyone to pitch in, because this is the crux of our discussion for today, the long-term impact, and also what lessons should we all learn, or we should absorb from this event. Noman, your mic is mute, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Noman. Basically, in terms of short-term impact or mid-term or long-term, the most important thing is that basically we are hit by three ways in this blockage. One, the goods on that ever given. Secondly, the 4,425 containers on the queue. And the third one, which is basically taking a longer route because of this blockage. So yes, because they have to go 2 weeks extra to reach to their destination. So in my point of view, there's a three-way impact on this. Usually companies are carrying a 1 week or 2 weeks inventory, so that's or for the imported one, little more inventory. So I can see the impact is not just within 1 week or two. I can see impact can come and hit them after 1 month or so as well, as and when the inventory time will cross and the inventory will not reach to them because of these 2-3 impacts. So that is one. I can see that it has little more, and it all depends that luckily the overall global perspective, only 12% of the material is going through this route, not the remaining 88%. So that's by chance that the 88% is still the safe. So we will impact. But on the other hand, in terms of resilience thing, and in terms of, I was just, when I was researching this topic, I have seen the few facts as well in in 1995 and in 1995 and somewhere else, there's another route which was discovered other than the Suez Canal route, which was basically from Israel side, and that was in a few years back, and it was not happened because of certain reason, because of more the political reason, not because of, I think, geographical reasons. So yes, the need of an alternate route for the bigger perspective has to be there, so that this can be overcome. But on the other hand, in terms of the resilience part, I must say, and in terms of things, because basically what is happening when we are designing our procurement strategies, mostly we are targeting that how come we have to go the minimum cost impact, and we should have a minimum cost on the other hand. But what will happen that we are, in my point of view, it should not be a minimum cost. It has to be an optimum cost, which has to build in the resilience cost as well as the contingency cost. So what is happening that at time while we're designing it, let's say if we have 2-3 suppliers, we are getting from one the most lucrative cost. So what we'll do, we'll put all eggs in one basket and give the complete the task of the lowest bidder kind of a thing, which is really impacting us in this kind of situation. So one thing is very clear, that in terms of while we are making a procurement strategy or supply chain strategy, we should be absolutely clear that there has a cost of resilience, there's a cost of contingency. We should go for an optimum cost, not the lowest cost, by building the contingency and the resilience cost into our cost structures. And this, because it is the job of supply chain team who has to put this forward, and it is presented to the board that yes, this is available on such and such cost, but on the other hand, there's a risk of resilience and contingency plan is there. So ideally speaking, we should take a call with the help of the board and the team sitting in the company, that we should build a resilience cost into it. And I think another thing is that, because we always think for our lowest cost and resilience cost, but I think this Suez Canal thing is really helping us to, while we are making a strategy for import suppliers, we should be cognizant of the fact that what route they are adopting. So we should be clear that if we have 2 or 3 suppliers, all the 3 suppliers coming from the same route, or they are coming from different routes. So I think we should be very clear that while we are finalizing our supply with same material from 2 or 3 sources, they have to have come from different routes, not from the same route. Because if the same route thing happened, the Suez Canal type, we'll stuck again. So it means that while we're doing a resilience work, while doing our contingency planning, we should also consider the routes of the containers or the carriers which they are following while bringing the material from one country to another country. So this is so it means we have to go deeper in that, and I think Suez Canal really help all of us to go a little deeper and find alternate routes as well. But definitely it has time, it has cost, because there was a discussion happening that if they are adopting to another area to another route, I think they 300,000 pounds per vessel they have to incur the cost for additional route. So I think this incident help us to identify the risk, not while seeing from our perspective, as well as I think we have to involve the shipping agencies along with our contingency plan, so that we should mitigate these kind of factors as well. And also we should identify the risk in much more deeper scenario, deeper way, so that these kind of incidents cannot hamper our operations for a minute or so as well. So and one thing which is very important is lowest source is not always the sustainable source in my point of view.
Okay.
So we should be very clear that while finalizing the sourcing units, we should be very clear that sustainable source is more important than the lowest source, and that's you need to clarify to your board and make them understand the cost of resilience at one point of time. So this is what my analysis is about these the long-term impact, and how can we mitigate this through the resilience and all that.
If you allow me, Noman, that leads to a question that comes to mind from Noman as well, analysis. Now, because you are all experts, an idea came to my mind while I'm hearing Noman analysis is, do you feel that there is more need of having hubs between in regions to cater the needs of the customers? For example, in the supply chain, as yani, spot on, Noman mentioned about the cost structure, the value chain, how do they manage it, how do they make it optimized, not low, and all that. Do you feel that we should look at, or countries or companies should look at having hubs so the supply chain can buy the product, long-term contracts, fixed pricing, they have the flow ongoing, and they choose a hub to store as an inventory, second inventory, where then they decide when it should come from that hub. So the price of buying, the purchase price is set. Then the movement price is cheaper because it might be cheaper or not, depends on the shipping routes. However, it might be more optimized towards having shorter transit times, maybe local transport, maybe feedering options. So they won't go through those kind of crises in future. What do you think of this?
Actually, if maybe you allow me to give an input, Noman.
Yes, Bassel.
Yeah, truly, I was about to touch on that, and I think this is more an initiative by the governments globally, and it is mainly flowing with the initiative and programs that many countries now, especially in the Middle East, are going through, is the more going into the localization on all levels: logistics, services, goods and services, manufacturing, and also when it comes to the subject of doing more pooling of demands, and ultimately, as you said, Rayan, it leads to have hubs to secure the flow of goods, and also not to fall trapped in a centralized system where we tend, in the last 30 years, everybody was going away offshore, build it up somewhere, have a call center in somewhere on this globe, and everything is pooled in a way. China became the main manufacturing hub. Everything goes out from there. This all exposed the whole world to such a supply chain risks. Especially, we learned it from the pandemic when it hit us. So I see now the supply chain going backwards. Now, going more into they call it, I heard this term several times in many, even internally in our organization, to global instead of global. Yani a mix between global and local dependency, and not any longer only depend on one factory sitting in Vietnam or in India or England, and just only depending fully on such a source, while we shut down completely and we become in the rest of the world as only consumers and just waiting for the route and how I will save on my logistics part and how I will arrange to have the goods on time. So now I think we are going backward, and I think globally the supply chain community are reviewing their operating model, and they are now looking more into how to do a kind of not fully decentralized, but maybe something called central-led model of maintaining stocks and keeping and also establishing factories, smaller factories around the globe instead of only combining one factory somewhere and depending on it completely.
Fine. Thank you, Bassel. I would like to add a few points here, since Rayan mentioned that it's all about rethinking that how things needs to be done. I would share a comment from one of the participants right now, and it is very relevant to the current discussion that we are having, and also the next discussion point for us. Basically, thanks, Richard, for this comment. Basically, this comment is from Richard Butcher, that the events in the Suez would open up opportunity for Saudi Rail, for example, with the East-West cargo train service coupled to an excellent port inland infrastructure, be an alternative than going through the canal. Fine. And the second comment that he made was that it would be interesting to look at a feasibility study for port costs east and west in Saudi and rail networks over Suez Canal. See, the topic that I want to touch now is that the lessons that we have learned, that the dependency, even though Noman Lutfi rightly mentioned that it is only 12% of the cargo, the sea cargo, which moves through the Suez Canal. But again, the 12% is an important part of it. At the end of the day, it is servicing, it is connecting the east and the west, the Mediterranean to the Persian Gulf, the Europe to the Asia mainly. Fine. And yes, the alternate route that we have seen, or now we started talking about, we all know about the Horn of Africa route as well, which is commonly known, the South Africa route. Then a few days back, the day that the ship got stuck over there from Russia, the statement start coming in that the Arctic route should be taken as well. And it was unfortunately coupled with the topic that because of global warming, the ice is much thinner over there, and the winter season is much smaller compared to previously. So now the sailable time or the sailable months are more available. So now the talks have started now that about the Arctic route as well, which, believe me, was never a consideration before that, because for ships to take the Arctic route, it was only a specialized route, and you would need the icebreaker ships to handle the ice if the ship is getting stuck or make the route through it. Now, to what Mr. Richard had mentioned, that as a viable option, this is what I would like to discuss, that Noman Lutfi mentioned as well, that we need to look at the different pathways through which your consignments are coming, the resilience you need to build in. From an infrastructure perspective, do you think that, or do you believe that this would help in providing a network, or start the talk about a network, a road network, a proper road network is already there, a rail network to connect the Europe to the Asia, or maybe different ports in which the Suez Canal can be rerouted, that it comes to Jeddah, for example, or to Sohar port. From there, it moves into inland through rail and goes across to, like Mr. Rayan mentioned, not Rayan, Richard, that a bridge can be made, a train bridge can be made to go into Egypt, and then it is connected. It can go via Turkey or the other into Europe as well. So what are your thoughts about a viable alternative, our dependency on the sea routes?
I think let me answer this question, Noman. I think we should not undermine the importance of Suez Canal altogether. And of course, I totally agree with all the participants, also with Richard, that we should also explore the other alternative to reach the sustainable kind of supply chain, global supply chain overall. For example, I totally agree with that. Actually, we have to explore the huge opportunity available in the rail transport, in intra-Asia, of course, or connecting Europe from Asia. And I think you all know that actually there's a rail service between Europe and China, and of course from China to onward, Eastern Europe, for example, Russia, especially, for example. So I think here comes the opportunity to explore this particular segment with all seriousness, of course. There are a lot of political situation also, and we have to consider those also when we discuss the alternative, by the way. So I being the logistician, being part of supply chain fraternity, I totally believe that we have to explore the huge opportunity available in terms of rail movement across the continent. Yeah, there can be some constraint with regard to the land route, of course. So, but linking Europe with Asia, we can use this rail link very effectively and very efficiently. And it will also provide you kind of alternative, and also ease out the burden on the ocean route of these moving this cargo from east to west, from west to east, by the way. Moving forward, of course, I cannot complete my comment without mentioning the Chinese strategy, which is OBOR, one belt, one road. I think it's getting the focus even after this incident, by the way, because they are doing different things. They have just done a 25 years long contract with Iran. They are linking their provinces with Iran through the land route, and Pakistan is already in the same OBOR map. And of course, for example, if we take the example of Pakistan, for example, Pakistan, they really tried to run a train service cargo train service between Pakistan and Turkey via Iran and Afghanistan, But I think, of course, the plan is there. We tried a couple of attempts, but somehow it could not be viable in terms of the cost of operations and all that stuff. But I think opportunity is there. So again, there is no harm building up or looking for alternative viable solutions such as train services and road lines. And of course, joining, encouraging the other countries to join the current initiative of OBOR, and also we should also not minimize or undermine the. I think Suez Canal should work the same way. We should build some other canals, some other connectivity. We should also work on the how can we reduce the cost of extra 300,000 pounds, for example, taking the longer route, which is 6,000 kilometers, I think longer than the Suez Canal route, by the way, and also how to reduce the transit time, of course, which is again 9 days more than the Suez Canal route, of course. And again, I totally agree with the gentleman Rayan, the other person, that actually, of course, we have to look for. We may have to revisit our sourcing strategy, of course, and also the production facility needs to be relocated to somewhere which is more less risky, of course, and more connected with the world, by the way. So yeah, I think in past 20 years, absolutely right. A lot of production being done in China, and the world is heavily depending on the Chinese production capacity. So the world has to look at it differently. I think they have to relocate some of the factories to different safe zone or safe area or alternative or the nearest country, for example, right? Or and one of the most important part that we are actually moving from just-in-time supply chain to just-in-case supply chain. Just in case means if anything happens somewhere, so what? So yeah, there comes the resilience of the supply chain, I think. So yeah, I think we need to look at these things indifferently. And of course, it's not very easy. It's very complicated. It's not like a kind of business decision. It's of course a political decision, by the way. So I think the world has to agree on some model, by the way, to reduce this challenges and of course mitigate the risk, by the way.
Okay, thank you, Anwar. Any input from any other of the participants, or we move on with the discussion? Okay. So all good. See, thanks, Anwar, for your input. Yes, interesting terminology, that the just-in-case supply chain, that we need to, the resilience part. People need to understand that what exactly is resilience, and resilience is not just about, as Noman Lutfi said, that when you need to work towards resilience, you need to stop looking at the lowest cost. You need to look at the optimum cost or the right cost, I would say. So that is something. Now coming to the viable alternative that we were talking about right now, another thing that comes to my mind, that this incident happened, and it can happen at any time. Like I mentioned that previously, 2-3 years back, a Japanese cargo ship got stuck, but it was, I think, half the size of this one. So my question to you gentlemen, in general, all of you, is that, should there be a talk about that as with time, due to economies of scale and trying to reduce the cost of transit or the logistics cost, the shipping lines are churning out bigger and bigger ships. Technology is coming in. They are able to bring in bigger and bigger ships out, so that more capacity can be moved from one location to the other. And as Anwar was saying, that there is a lot of dependence on sea logistics and a lot of burden on sea logistics. And should there be that, in your opinion, that there should be a limit on what kind of a vessel can actually go through such canals where there is a risk available, or there's a possible risk there? So should that be a limiting factor? The floor is open, or should I select someone to answer this? Rayan, your perspective on this, if you may, please.
It's interesting. Now, there is a reason why vessels or shipping lines chose to go with large multi-mega vessels, is because they want to reduce cost and they want to increase their margins. So from their point of view, going with smaller, limited vessels as a rule to go through Suez Canal, that's a killer to the economy of Suez Canal, for example. So here we are talking big giants game. It's not only the supply chain itself. It's political, it's economy of country, it's shipping line, margin, profits, basis. So it's not something that we can really tap into and think that maybe innovation could solve. Yes, innovation could solve, but as soon as you touch a profit or $1, 1 cent from any of those players in the chain, it's not workable. So it all depends, from my opinion. Now, to have an alternative, think about it. What do we have other? The world is just in this basket. This is the route that takes the 12%, creating more services within the Red Sea, hubs, more ports, bigger capacities. That could help, but you are still stuck with that route. To go through the others, you have the 9,000 additional miles you have to go through, and then you have the additional cost, the fuel cost, the associated cost of all those, the crew, the catering of the vessel, the machines, the spare parts, the maintenance cost, the lifetime of the engines. It's all factoring in. So therefore, it's better to have a proper, resilient supply chain modes rather than depending on others to solve our problems. So every chain, every let's say anchor in the chain of the supply chain, they have a certain value that they contribute with. So everyone needs to focus on their value and how they can optimize it to make sure that the consumer or the suppliers are getting the best out of the chain itself. So that's my opinion.
Thanks, Ryan. A point that I had earlier noted down, and also again a comment I will share here. Again, that there are two factors to economies of scale, and what as logisticians or as supply chain, that what we are looking for when we are planning. One is definitely the cost factor of it, that how much the logistics cost would be when we are deciding the route or the vessel or the mode of transportation. The second part is always the lead time, that how and when we want to do that. And I believe the time for transit or for moving one consignment or one product from one location to the other location, that has a lot of impacts that defines our how would I put it, our inventory level methodology, the strategies, how much we want to carry inventories for that, what should be the safety stock, what should be our the pipeline stock, and on the BMI on the vendor side stock. So if we move towards as a viable option that maybe the speed or the time takes for vessel, because the larger that you go, I'm very much that obviously the larger vessel would be much slower compared to the smaller vessels. So you are how would I say, you are giving up on the aspect of time in that. So if a smaller vessel can be used with a better time, with better engine, better technology, and that can basically help in reducing the time, I would, my opinion would be that that can be a, the cost benefit analysis of that, of moving less comparatively. I'm not talking about that moving 5 or 6 containers, but not like 20,000 containers, maybe 15,000 containers at a better speed, so that your supply chain lead time gets reduced, and that has a big dollar value attached to it. So I would, this is a thought that I'm putting across. So Noman, Lutfi, if you can, you mentioned you talked about supply chain resilience, and you talked about how much inventory needs to be kept. So if you can. Noman, your connection is bad right now.
Can I respond, Noman? If Noman is not respond.
Yeah, Noman, Lutfi, your connection is bad. We can't hear you. So if someone else would like to respond, Noman, if you can read.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, sorry.
Can I respond, or yes, wait for Noman?
Yes. Yeah, you respond, Anwar. If Noman can reconnect, so that the connection can be reset.
I think my response would be more it's very simplistic. I do not think that limiting the size of the cargo ship vessel would help to mitigate the risk or reduce the timeline or maybe cost, because cost would go high end of the day. But if we do it, then of course it will further increase the freight charges, which will have devastating impact on the economy of many countries, by the way. So, however, I think that shipping lines should start working, as we discussed earlier, that on the contingencies or the shifting traffic or creating balance between these two routes we discussed just now. The second route is of course, longer and expensive in terms of, and of course, not only in terms of the distance, also in terms of the transit days. So, yeah, I think I don't agree with that, by the way, that we should start thinking of reducing the size or the capacity of these vessels. But I think we should look at it differently. I think we should spend time on developing the alternative of logistics among these countries from west to east, and also creating trying different routes, for example, and also of course relocating the production hub and reassessing this sourcing strategy altogether.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Anwar. And Noman Lutfi is back with us. So Noman, can you hear us? No, I think the connection is still bad.
Okay, Noman, I can take up maybe on top of what, yes. I think this is a debate, and this will carry on as long as this humanity is developing toward 8 billion, 9 billion, 10 billion. We should not forget that we are growing. The demand is growing. We can. I think the shipping lines and this industry can look into, we go into more now efficient vessels, smaller and more efficient, faster, and all those. But we are always running after a very fast-moving growth of the globe, our globe in terms of population. Okay, population is very fast. China is very much aware about it. I think they are thinking. 2013, they made it as a nation project and strategy of the ruling party in China. In 2013, they launched the Belt and Road Initiative, which just now our friend mentioned about it, and also what we call it in the Middle East here, the Silk Road economic belt. We call it the Silk Road because in the 15th, 16th, and even before centuries, it was very much common that it goes through the roadway all the way. What is happening now? I think it should be in two directions, and it can. And this is, I think, what China is doing. However, we have to put we have to focus very, very much on the geopolitical situation, whether this project will be allowed to reach its really objective, or geopolitical issues will be roadblocks front of the implementation. Only to be more specific, if we are having, really we have 12% of capacity going through Suez Canal, but this 12% capacity is serving iconic projects in a very booming and developing region. So the 12%, in my opinion, impact becomes 30, 40 in terms of real impact. If China's economic belt or the Silk Road, what they call it, will work, and the whole situation and geopolitical situation will allow it to be to see the light, then yes, we will have a segregation and a balance of distribution of load between road, which will part of the load and the capacity will go through the road across Red Sea to Saudi Arabia, all the way on the Persian side, and then crossing back to China. If this will be one day, and don't forget, this also comes all the way from China going through Pakistan and all the rest of the route, then this will be a major step forward to go hand in hand and in line with the growth of the population globally. Otherwise, we will always be remaining trapped in a capacity issue, and we will always maybe face these challenges of having issues in supply chain every now and then.
Thank you, Bassel. I think we do have Noman Lutfi back. Noman, can you hear us? I think the problem is still persisting.
Noman, they can only see him. That's it.
He's always good to look at, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. Noman, if you close your video and then see if the connection is better, so that. No, I think Noman is still having some connectivity issues. So we can still move forward. That's unfortunate. Now, so far that we have discussed a lot of things, and here, I like to have one part of the session that to help the participants who are joining in through the live streaming, if they can, get an, how would I put it, something to learn from the participants over here, that everybody is facing the issue of these delays now happening and the stuck. Definitely it is happening. And I remember in one of the groups, there was a friends of mine commented that, suddenly everything would be the procurement fault, that why did you order this from here, or why did logistics select this route? And we mentioned that why it has coming from there, maybe the route can be different. And the management, the expectation management of the management itself sometimes becomes a big worry. So based on your experience, I would like, Rayan, if you may, that, as an advice to the supply chain fraternity, that when such events happen, and once, and we have learned a lot definitely during COVID, how to handle both the upstream and the downstream expectations, and how to bridge the gap in such, how to handle the turbulence.
Good planning. They have to plan it right. Now, in one of the main important elements in supply chain, in upstream or downstream, is the supply-demand planning. If they focus on the actual right plans, plan A, plan B, plan C, contingency, cost structures, alternatives, first supplier, second service provider, third one, they don't look at cost. So they look at, again, I like the word when the gentleman mentioned it, it's optimization. So now when we look at supply chain, we look at efficiency, we look at optimization. Proper planning would be my advice in such turbulent scenarios, because if you plan right from the beginning, you will know exactly how to manage the excess or how you will manage the shortage. Now, if you are locked in a contract with KPIs, penalties, and all that, it's better to pay in advance to have whatever is promised in that contract available somewhere nearby, rather than being late and paying penalties and then paying the on top of additional freights and risks, costs, and all that associations. So that's my advice.
Thank you. I would add one personal experience on this, something that over the years I learned and I started implementing. And this is an example from within Saudi Arabia. And mirror in Pakistan as well, especially since two operative ports are here in Jeddah. One is definitely the Jeddah Islamic Port, and the other one is the King Abdullah Port in K. This is what on a logistics front, which Noman Lutfi also earlier mentioned, that it always viable that not to keep all your eggs in one basket. What I used to do for my shipments coming in, where the quantity was high and the demand based, many containers coming in, so I would always try to keep consignments on different containers, because there's always congestion at Jeddah port. So I used to always bring some quantities into King Abdullah Port as well, so that I have the quantities coming in at two different locations. And if there's something bad happening, or something congestion is there, or delay is there, or something, I always have a secondary route or secondary supply source from a logistics perspective available. So that is again something I would advise people and everyone to review. Like if I look at the example of Pakistan, Karachi, we have the Karachi port and we have the Gwadar port as well and Port Qasim as well. So these are the three different that can be looked at. Obviously, there's the logistics, road transportation cost linked to one or the other options. But as Noman had mentioned that to have resilience, to have the contingencies available, there's a certain cost that you have to build in. So, and that small cost goes a long way sometimes, it helps you cover the unknown risk or the hidden risk. So that is
agree. Yani, for example, imagine if you are importing 1,000 containers a year. You have to plan 80% your contingency first. What is the contingency? What is the resilient? 20%, 30% available at all times. And then you can decide to split 80%, 70% through a place, and 30 are always not cost conscious. It is always from the perspective of assurance, security for your products and your needs. If you do that, so you did the right thing, having a split of cargo. I'm sure that it affected the cost a little bit. However, it made sure that your product is there, because the cost of supply chain, yes, we are very sensitive about and we look at it a lot. However, the margins from the retail when you sell or the projects when you deliver are much, much, much higher, that you compromise the profits from that main core business on just trying to negotiate or save $1, $5 per ton or whatever in the supply chain cost. So we have to be very careful when we decide and evaluate our designing phase in terms of projects or making our products available to the consumers in the market.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you. I believe, Noman, we will try again with you. Noman.
Okay, let me chip in here, of course. Just to give you kind of idea of the cost of moving goods from one place to another place. I'll talk in terms of Pakistan market, by the way. Since August 2020, the freight cost, gone up like crazy, I tell you. If I just give you kind of a few examples, for example, for any container for Europe, the freight cost was, before August 2020, it was around $900 to $1,000 per TEU, per 40 container exactly. But now it's exceeding $5,000, per 40-foot container. If we talk about the US freight cost, so it was around $2,000 per 40-foot container, but now it's $5,000 to $7,000 per 40-foot container. For example, for the Far East traffic, the freight was $50 before August last year, but now it's around $600. So yeah, I think it's very challenging for a lot of businesses in Pakistan here to maintain the profitability or to remain the profitable or to, of course, run their whole operation in the most optimized manner, because these changes in the cost of doing business actually hampering the business itself heavily, by the way. So yeah, some business can afford to increase their their safety stock, buying more and keep it in the warehouse, and then of course they have bigger lead time, they have bigger inventory available at the factory backyard. But yes, a lot of businesses cannot afford to engage their cash flow, buying a lot of raw material in advance just to mitigate the risk of challenges like Suez Canal blockage, for example. So I think the different situation, of course, and everyone has to react with regard to the ground realities and with regard to their strategy, I think. So yeah, things are different for many organizations whether you are into this production or the retail business or into this logistics business. So I think we have to learn, and we have to learn different things, and we have to try different things. And of course, without being innovative, without being open for the new ideas, I think we cannot keep our business profitable all the time.
Correct. Thank you, Anwar. No, I agree with you. Yes. At the end of the day, you're right that it's not always the option of keeping inventories, but yes, economies of scale. And obviously, the keyword over here is always when you're taking such decisions, the keyword is always the optimum cost. You need to keep it. You can have alternate suppliers as well, but predominantly you would like to work with the cheaper option, but as a backup or as something, as plan B, even if the plan B is expensive, but it helps you plug in any kind of delays or shortages. As Rayan also mentioned, that the cost, the revenue generation is much important, or much has a more bandwidth to it compared to how sensitive we are to costs in general on the supply chain cost. If due to material shortage, or due to because we were running after one single source and not having our alternates available, if a shortage happens, so the cost of lost opportunity is much higher than the cost sensitivity that we were probably running after. That is there.
Maybe Noman, just as a comment after I heard from all the participants, I think because we as organization and as a consumer, we are mainly in the middle of that, probably because it's very important to keep an eye on the competition within the market where you are operating, and on the other side also look at continuous review of your, because here we are jumping into the sourcing, not only the logistics, because you need to have a proper strategic sourcing to as you said, in order to maintain and sustain a balanced sources for your businesses, for your manufacturing, for your projects execution. It's a balance, an eye on the competition, because you cannot go completely into the other direction and you forget yourself in terms of competitors, what they are doing, and then you lose the market share. In the same time, you also find for yourself the balanced supply chain in terms of sourcing. Dependency on one supplier at the moment in our days now is extremely dangerous. That's why you need to diversify more the sourcing strategy in order to remain in a balance between the competitors and keep yourself in the market, and in the same time ensure that you have a contingency whenever crisis hit or you are faced by challenges coming up from logistics or even coming up from sourcing and procurement by itself. So this is what, and I have been reading recently heavily papers and opinions coming out from giants like Toyota, like Caterpillar, like Hyundai, that they are reviewing completely their supply chain strategy from the perspective of relying on the raw material sources, finalizing only a tender of 3 years length with one major supplier, or maybe sacrificing to a certain extent on the price side, but maintaining a diversity to keep themselves running at the time of crisis. This is the balance, which is very thin line between both sides.
Thank you. Noman, is your connection okay? We can take you again. I think the issue is persistent. No, it's not there. A point that I would like to make here is that not today's age that across across all aspects of situation. One thing that continuously talk about is how digitization can support the overall channel, the overall supply chain. I would say day before yesterday, I was having a discussion with a gentleman, and basically his name was that yes, digitization and everything is very good, but how does it help when such events happen? How can digitization could it have predicted? Could have it warned that maybe looking at the weather patterns, maybe the AI could have given a risk factor or risk evaluation that should the vessel should go into the Suez Canal based on the coming days, that there was a dust storm expected, high winds were expected. Can that support now the overall supply chain, the digitization and the artificial intelligence algorithm and data mining? So this is a question, a thought over here to anyone who would like to take this question.
Yeah, I want to answer this question, by the way. So being a service provider, we have a product is called Smart Visibility, and we offer it to our ocean freight customers. So it's actually application, mobile application. It can be accessed through the website also. There, the customer or the cargo owner can locate their vessel and the shipment on real time basis, by the way. So I think this would can be helpful for a lot of companies to track their shipment in a real time manner, and they would know in advance that if there's any delay, in terms of shipment, of course, they can plan some contingency, of course, accordingly. So yes, I totally agree with you. Technology can play a lot of role, making sure that, of course, creating that visibility among the parties of supply chain. So that's absolutely, totally agree with you.
Okay. It's a good thing that you mentioned that the product or the service that you offer, and I will come back to, I would circle around this more, that how about a global visibility when we were talking about finding alternate routes and everything. Right now, the platform or which is available, you are basically working with a few freight forwarders. Those freight forwarders are working with a few selected preferred shipping lines or route operators. But as a consumer, for example, like in the case of Bassel or Noman, Lutfi, they are consumers. They use these services. How can technology provide them a global visibility, and how would that help them make better decisions?
I think if you talk about tracing your own shipment, of course, our application is fully capable to handle that. Of course, you can track your shipment real time, globally, of course, no matter whether they are very close to your country or they are far away from your country, for example. So you can track that shipment in real time manner, of course. We also provide a kind of that device, satellite device, which you can attach with your container box, especially in case of the cold chain, of course, just to, of course, monitor the temperature level and the shocks and everything. Yeah, I think when we talk about the overall kind of tool available, general tool available for any consumer to track and trace the cargo movements or vessel movements, or I think there are some few sites available whereby you can trace any vessel or any flight real time. I don't think so that can really help you, but I think you have to be aware of, you have to be informative in terms of what is going on in the political arena. I think there can be is there any chance for a congestion, port congestion, for example, like due to any seasonal demand, like Chinese New Year, for example, or Christmas in the West, for example. And yeah, I think we need to be very vigilant with regard to before taking any decision or before ordering, I think. So I think all of us generally, even talking about on behalf of Noman, by the way, he also like takes such kind of consideration before like taking any decision. I think that which may impact the supply of the raw material to his factory or to anyone's factory.
Okay. Thank you, Anwar. See, in generally, in my sessions, I do not, like to mention certain products or something, but you're right in the sense that a global perspective tools are there. And right now, if I talk about my organization, I'm working with one company right now to introduce such a tool within Saudi Arabia to provide global visibility to consumers and also to enterprises. And we are working hard to bring the major players when it comes to freight forwarders, shipping lines, on board on that. And that, let's see, plans are working out to help introduce that over here. Already it is there in Pakistan. A few companies are using that tool and using that platform. It is there in the UAE, and also right now they have signed up a few in the UK as well. So that is there. So that we can always discuss offline. But now, since now we have talked about digitization and everything, and now I would like to conclude this session in general in a few words from all of you, that what would you take as a learning, any event that happens. And I remember this, I learned this topic back at Unilever, that when I was there, that whenever a certain incident or certain flag was raised or something used to happen, we never used to talk about that why it happened. We used to talk about what learning can we derive from it. So that is, in a question or a point that from every one of you, I would like to. My perspective on the learning part is that, yes, what we have discussed so far is all learning right now. Incidents do happen, but we need to be able to mitigate those, not the immediate risks, or to handle those risks. As Rayan said earlier, that communication and how you plan it across. That can be one area, and on a long-term basis, yes, this is something which has happened, and again, it might happen sometime. The probability might be less, but it might happen. And as Noman Lutfi had mentioned, that we need to look into strongly into the concept of resilience and working out alternate plans and alternate, decision making, and not running after the lowest cost, but running after the optimum cost. So that is my take on the learning from this. Over to any one of you who would like to take this.
Thank you, Noman. We really enjoyed the topic and the discussion, very valuable. I would go with a very simple model. Plan, be prepared, always look or visit your approach. So keep that in mind as a parameters. Hopefully then you will be able to accommodate any surprise and challenge.
Yeah, Noman. Sorry,
yes,
I also, yes, taking the right decisions within your organization, and here I'm talking when it is subject to when you are a consumer and having as a large organization, it's a big responsibility, and every decision can take you to either a success or a total failure. My lesson, the lesson learned, is a continuation to what we learned from the pandemic, from the COVID-19 pandemic, which was the major boost for learning more and be prepared. So take right decisions internally, have your risk and control and also contingencies be well prepared in advance. Issues like those will continue to occur on different levels in the supply chains. So most important that an organization needs to have this synergy internally and also alignment among all its business sectors and corporate functions and all as one to be ready for such crisis that may hit anytime, anywhere.
Okay, thank you. I would like to, since Noman is still having the connectivity issues, his response I will like to display. He sent it that the learning that he's talking about is that we usually talk about volatility at the front end, but we should consider back end volatility and compare which one impact more on business. So that is so true. Thank you, Noman, on that. Now coming to, I would like to, before we end this session, a few questions are there. So I would like to take a few questions from the participants. So the first question that I would like to put forth to all of us is basically it's from Faisal Qureshi. I was watching on Industry Expert on BBC yesterday, and he said that there was a suggestion to implement a 10-cent levy per container to enhance Suez Canal services. Do you guys agree this is enough?
We need to understand that the Egyptian government is making $5 billion per year out of this levies from the Suez Canal. So it's a huge income, by the way. And I think being freight forwarding company, we have fear that that is going to happen sooner or later. I don't know. Maybe by this Suez Canal Authority or by these carriers who are operating their ships through this canal. By the way, so totally not. I do not agree with this at all. The tough phase over, and I think let get to the normal life. No more charges, no more increase in the cost.
You're right. Actually, I was reading somewhere that per ship or something, the average that the Suez Canal Authority charge for the pass through the canal is somewhere around $100,000 to $110,000 per vessel that they are charging, and maybe it might be bigger or more for the larger vehicles. So I believe already, a lot of how would I put, liquidity is available. And this is not something that is done at a 60-day payment terms or 90 days payment terms. And probably a high probability that it is all advance payments that without paying you cannot pass through. It's a toll tax.
So interestingly, we also like expecting it's called congestion charges. But when these vessels reach to their concerned port, there is a possibility that they would impose congestion charges, which can be $50 to $200 per container. That is something which the business economy cannot bear this additional cost exactly.
And I think what Rayan initially earlier mentioned that what the Saudi government or the President of Mawani, the port authorities over here has announced. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rayan, that it is a 60 days grace period for the congestion charges, or right?
60 days free for transshipment containers in Jeddah port. So vessels can come drop containers, keep it here for 60 days, or cargo, and then they move it quickly.
They move it. So I believe that the other authorities maybe need to follow suit, because this was an issue and someone should not be penalized because of that. Fine. Coming to the next question was, I think we had taken. Okay. again, this is a question we can take. It is from Mohammed Basalim. Any idea of how to avoid or manage port congestion that should be followed after the Suez Canal crisis?
Yeah, I think smart prioritization of your goods movement. You will, for sure, you will have limitations after this crisis, and it will be a backlog of maybe 10, 15 days till all the vessels crosses the canal on both sides, and then you will have this congestion at the ports. It will be just only how you prioritize your flow of goods. But I think, in my opinion, it is more on the side of our friends who are the service providers, to how to prioritize it and how to whom to put on top of whom. But I can also talk about the local transportation, who will be also standing in queues, and then you will be also suffering to find a flatbed trailer or a low bed trailer and so on. And yeah, it will be a total mess for a few days. But from my side, I rely on also reliable transporters and service providers to really help me out in these situations, and this will guarantee for them my business volume whenever they succeed to satisfy at least the awaiting customers whom I have on the other side. So this is from a consumer perspective, but I think from the core business service providers, it's also different.
True, I agree. Now for ports, if how you want to manage congestion, you need to manage the capacity of trucks that enters in. You need to manage the number of containers that you exit, or the number of general cargo that you make sure that they have the right, let's say, gate, the path. The terms of clearance should be faster. The certificates and all should be also fast. So you have to have, it's a group work of the port community. Whoever works in that port needs to work together from terminal up to the gates of the port. Anyone in between should be aligned on the strategy, on the concept, on the modes. So very, very good question. Ports need to be prepared. Even if there will be no congestion, they need to have a plan how to manage the congestion if it happens.
Okay, thank you.
I totally agree with Bassel and Rayan, of course. And I think one most important aspect of avoiding this congestion thing, the government have to take a lot of efforts to ease out the custom clearance process, of course, in all the ports, because that would really can create a value, of course, and can expedite the whole situation. Because then I think they have to take a lot of action and, of course, steps to ease out the custom clearing process and to expedite it as much as the custom authorities can, of course, everywhere in the world. That would definitely add a lot of value.
So true. I would just put one comment here from Noman Lutfi, and his comment on this was how to manage is to weigh the risk and accordingly act. That which is urgent. Do not put the pressure on your freight forwarder or your clearing agent that I need all my consignment tomorrow. Also plan out. Give them the breathing space that which container is more important, which container maybe can wait another 5 days. Give them the breathing space. And this is prioritizing. This is what I meant by prioritizing. Exactly. I agree with you, Bassel, on this, that treat your freight forwarders as your partners for a change, not just to, put your foot down their throats or something. So I can see behind the smile of Anwar, the pain that there is, that he's expecting now. So I think...
to be very honest, it's of course a challenging situation for us to look after our customers equally, and of course understanding their emergencies, of course, and provide them all possible support to make it happen. At the same time, we also like suggested our customer to of course we help them to air freight their time critical shipments to their factories, of course, because of course it's a very expensive way to moving cargo from anywhere. But yes, this is one of the alternative we have given them, and a lot of them actually avail this alternative. But yes, we are trying hard. I think all of us from the service provider sector must be trying hard with their customers to keep them happy, to keep them satisfied, of course. And I think the whole situation will take another 20-30 days to normalize. I think to get normalized.
So true. You're right on this part. That yes, it will be. I would say still. You're being conservative, probably in the next 45 to 60 days, in my sense that it would normalize right now. The whole congestion on the port and the congestion on the sea routes as well. I think basically that ends our session. So we are done with all the questions. And I would thank you all for taking the time out and, answering to my call, within a few, I was pressurizing for all of you to join this session, and it happened, and within a day that you all agreed, and I was able to conduct this session. And thank you again. Thank you for your time. It was indeed a pleasure to be talking to you and sharing the same online space with all of you.
Thank you, Noman. Thank you to all of you and all the participants as well, and the audience. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to be in touch with the audience and with especially the speakers. Now I believe our network has grown further with just meeting you here.
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Exactly for this excellent, I think, discussion we just had.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.